Paul George is being realistic with who he is at this point in his career. I don't even think he's a 2 anymore.
I think that he wants money and he's not holding the starters accountable.
I want to start off with Pandemic P.
Oh no.
Talking about the seasons and how things went.
About it was, we started the year off rolling. We started the year off hot. Everybody was playing well. There was energy there that it was kind of like first time like
Gripping.
of us all being healthy with Russ now. Like it was like the emergence of what it's like being with Russ now, with myself healthy, Kawhi healthy, and Russ full time here. So it was kind of like a fresh start of what we thought could work. And then we traded to get James, and it's not James' fault of why I think we struggled, but
Right.
I think the lost part of that was that we lost Rocco, we lost Nico.
Right.
Those was our glue
Robert
guys.
Covington.
Like that was our defenders. And we play small, so they had the length to help us play small.
Right.
So again, it had nothing to do with losing or grabbing James. It was more so losing those guys, KJ Martin as well. Like that was our energy, our young legs. So I think that's kind of where, you get to late in the year and, we just weren't as good as we could have been. I think losing those guys kind of hurt us. You know what I mean? Because like Rocco is huge for us. Nico was huge for us. They would go get rebounds. They would block shot, rotate. They were defensive guys. So you plug those guys around myself, Kawhi, Russ, like, they did a lot of the dirty work. And now you grab James, who's a super talented offensively.
Exactly.
Now myself, Kawhi, like we become the dirty guys. And now we have to score too. And it was just, I think a lot that we were.
I'm sorry, bro. Who does he think Robert Covington is in 2024, bro? Oh my God.
Stop, bro. Is that the full? That the full clip?
Let's see a little bit more. Let's see what he says.
Trying to balance and manage at that
Fair
point.
shake.
But again, had nothing to do with James. James, I thought was awesome for us. One of the best passers I played with, one of the best playmakers. The way he just sees the floor and can take care of the ball, not even just the passes he make, but just his ball security. It's just impressive for how much, he's in pick and rolls and in tight spaces. And, especially this part of his stage of his career, being older and having young guards trying to pick him up.
Now, the reason why that is so interesting is a tweet that says, it's fitting that we just watched Tatum and Brown win a title while not once complaining about doing the dirty work, picking up the best player on the other side, winning contested rebounds versus bigs, and making the right play on O. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. Why that is interesting is because he's a free agent. He is a free agent. He's, lobbying himself for a team, and it sounds like he has a problem with doing the dirty work. They also wanted to point out Jimmy Butler, somebody else who, when not scoring, can do the dirty work, as Paul George would call it. So what are y'all sentiments on Paul George basically telling on himself?
First of all, Sage is frozen. I don't know if you can hear us, but I did see someone talk about how, Paul George's tendencies in 2024, he settles way too much for jump shots. He doesn't even try to drive to the rim anymore. He just, he's tween, hezzy cross. He's that guy, and he's, embraced it. So, I do think, Paul George is being realistic with who he is at this point in his career. I don't even think he's a 2 anymore, bro. I think he's closer to Zach LaVine than, I don't know, JT. Is that crazy? Maybe not. I don't know. That may be a hot take.
Small forward Zach LaVine? No, I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, just the premise of him being a third option. I think that's his best utilization right now, like a Chris Middleton role. As far as that clip though, it was just funny because what it sounded like to me was like Giannis being on a podcast talking about, man, it wasn't the problem wasn't bringing on Dame, it was losing Drew. You know what I'm saying? That's really why we failed. That's what it was given, but there's a bunch of other factors as to why y'all failed. And it's not just losing Robert Covington and KJ Martin. I don't know why you didn't talk about the elephant in the room, Kawhi. If we're holding motherfuckers accountable now and talking about why the season really failed, for the fourth year in a row, your best player wasn't there to close out the season.
Well, they kind of talked about Kawhi because when he went on the not countdown, but the halftime show of the NBA Finals.
Oh, he did it in a different clip. Okay.
Stephen A. brought it up. I'm not gonna play the clip, but Stephen A. had brought it up, and Kawhi was like, Paul George was like, nah, don't do my man Kawhi like that. So then when I listened to the full podcast, he was like, yeah, I really wasn't feeling that. Like Stephen A. trying to put it on Kawhi as if, he doesn't want to play or whatever the case may be. But Kawhi definitely does want to play. I want to, because Sage heard all that. I want to bring this to Sage's attention. This is on that same podcast. Paul George is not looking to chase a championship in free agency. I mean, at this point, it's not even about like people saying chasing a championship. Like, it's not that, but it's playing the right style of basketball is what I'm chasing. So if you couple that quote with the clip that you just heard about it, him being tasked with doing the dirty work. How do you feel about Paul George now?
I don't feel about Paul George. I mean, look, I ain't gonna lie. Maybe Robert Covington and KJ McDaniels or whatever, KJ Daniels, whoever it was. I maybe those aren't the names, but I agree with the ideology. I can't have my takes on the Lakers and think that what he said was wrong. I just don't think it's fully honest. Elephant in the room is, dog, Harden weren't hooping, Russ to a degree wasn't hooping, and Kawhi wasn't playing. So it's more than just some of the depth and role players that you lost there. Depth does play a factor, but come on, bro. In regards to wanting to play the right way, nigga wants a bag, and I'm for it. But I think there's also some truth there, and I go as far as to say that's probably the best thing for him to do instead of try to chase for a championship, because as we know, that leads to these trio super team light versions that go home in the second round or first round. I love, for example, Paul George to Indiana. I know that seems had asked for a return, but I'm looking at that Indiana squad, and I think Paul George not only doesn't hinder anybody in terms of being a starting wing, but then he also plays perfectly with Tyrese. He would be a much, much, much needed defender on that squad. I've heard people throw around Philly as well, but I just don't want an older player in Philly anymore because, we don't need any more ifs about Philadelphia. But yeah, we don't need none of that shit in Philly. But like, that's what I'm saying. So I do love the mindset that he's having, and really both of his takes. I just think they're not the full truth. I think that he wants money and he's not holding the starters accountable.
Guys, springtime is sprung, and that means America's pastime is here. Grab you a Frank, grab you a beer, and head on over to PrizePicks and play daily fantasy sports. Make sure you download the app or head over to the website. I see Mookie Betts, 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. I'm going to go more naturally. And then I'm going to go Kyle Harrison, more on hits allowed. I'm going to place my money in my entry. Let's go column 10. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit place entry.
And thanks to our friends over at PrizePicks, if you guys use code LKIB, you guys can get a 100% match on your first deposit of up to $100. And hopefully you can win some money as well if you really know baseball or basketball or really any sport you want to play. Links to everything will be in the description down below. And shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. He's Paul George and Kyrie. Paul George, Kyrie is like a very good comp for me. Cool kids stylistically from a basketball perspective, but when it's time to really shine, when it's time to really give some substance, just can't find them. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the 3 games to end the series. What is this, game 4, something like that? Game 5. Paul George, 33 points, 11 for 19, 7 for 10 from the field. All right, that's perfectly fine. Now this is 3-2, so I guess this is game 6. Paul George, 4 for 13 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, 15 points. He had 11 boards though, but not great shooting. And then this is the elimination game here. Paul George, 6 for 18 from the field, 33%, 2 for 10 from the 3-point line, 18 points, 11 boards, 5 assists. You can be real with yourself. Like, you're not a dirty work guy. Like, you are a hooper. You are, if I don't have to focus on rebounds, then, I am who I am. I know somebody didn't say that last stat line was a good stat line. If you're not a rebounding guy, if you're not a playmaking guy, you are who you are. That's fine. We're definitely moving into an era in the NBA though, where like Nah. If I just seen guys be versatile where Jaylen Brown can go off and also be a good defender and also be a rebounder and also make plays, I would say about Jason Tatum. But yeah, Jason Tatum can give me my 35, 40, rebound, all that stuff like that. From a wing player, that's what I would like to see. But the problem is you just don't want to be that. So I just don't feel like I should be overpaying for you.
Yeah, his contract is going to be weird because he's going to have fan pressure and attention of, oh shit, Paul George. But reality is Paul George doesn't need to be in a situation where he needs to be playing like his contract likely will be. He doesn't need to be playing like he's a supermax guy. And not that he's not at a supermax level, but Paul George needs to like embrace a role. And he's not, and if that role is just buckets, fine, but he damn well ain't winning no championship. That role needs to be like 3-and-D plus ish, but as a second scoring option. Not, yeah, I think that's the best case. Yeah, a 3-and-D player as a clear cut number 2, not on some like Kawhi shit where yeah, Kawhi's better, but some nights it's Paul George's night. Nah, it needs to be, yo, X player is better than you, and he's going to get the ball a lot more than you. But hey, PG, go get yours too.
If y'all get the chance,
Philly to me.
If y'all get the chance, y'all should listen to the entirety of that podcast because he's giving subtle sneak disses the whole podcast, that whole right there. It's not James, but you know we did have to do this to get James, and we did have to do that to get James. We had to do this to get James. We had to do, but it's not James. It's not James. I promise you, it's not James. And then the whole
security.
Yeah, at the end of the whole. I mean, it's. I don't want a championship at this point, but there's a style of basketball that I'm chasing. You know that I'm just, you know,
you don't have it in LA type.
But it's not James. It's not James. It's not James. And then he was like, they asked him about, you know, is basketball better in a system, or is it better if it's just, you know, ISO, watch a guy, you know, and then get the ball or whatever. I'm not gonna lie, a system is like the best place. I love a system. Like, you know, you cut. And you know you're going to get the ball? Like, you know, kind of like when I was with Russ in OKC. I like that. I was like, all right, bro. All right.
Or that time in Indiana.
Yeah, more that time in Indiana. Really?
Just not now. Just not.
I really think he wants to go back to Indy, bro. If the finances made sense, bro.
James. Come on, bro. All right. You got to stop.
I want to see him go back to Indy if that's possible. I don't think so, but...
I mean, he might get the ball more. I don't know. I think it's hard to realize that the writing is on the wall and that like it's not your day, especially when you have successful days. Because I think Paul George is a cool regular season guy. Like, you know, cool regular season guy. It's just clear to me that like the league has figured you out, and you're 34. I mean, you know,
I disagree. I don't know. I think Kawhi's left him hanging a lot in these playoffs, bro. And he's been put in situations where he needs to be a first option when, again, I think for the last 3 years, he's been even realistic with himself, talking about like, yeah, Kawhi, look, yeah, it's his team. Well, he's not there. Now I got to step up. Like, I don't even think Kawhi, PG wants to be that number one. It's just next man up type shit. So
yeah,
he really hasn't gotten his fair shake, man. I don't know.
He's 30. He's 34. He's 34.
I think for me, no, but Souls is on to something though, because I'll say this: we have normalized getting that Woj text in the playoffs about Kawhi not being there. We pretty much like known it's a thing. So the Clippers will be poised, look good, whoop whoop, and then oh shit, Kawhi is out. All right, first option PG again. So and then we already identify that. Yo, he can get boards, he can pass, but that ain't who he is. That's not the forte. And if you got Paul George doing all that, something's wrong in your franchise. So, yeah, I see what Souls mean. I probably even just straight up agree with him.
Put it this way, like let's say the Celtics for the last 4 or 5 years, JT just gets injured in the playoffs. Jaylen Brown has to step up and be the number one, but they keep on getting bounced out in the first or second round. JB is having bad closeout games. He's shooting 7 of 22. I understand those are bad numbers, but at some point it's like, damn, this wasn't how we've been practicing all season. This isn't my responsibility. Now I'm getting criticized for like doing something that I'm not even trained to do. So
only thing I will give Omar there to be somewhat fair, he's been a number one before, so it's nothing new to the nigga. It's just, yeah, he ain't that no more.
He's not number one.